I know they say you can't go home again.
The 2000s gave us a decade of country music that was bigger, louder, slicker, more commercial than anything that had come before it. But buried inside all that noise, there were songs that made people cry. Grab a drink and let's dive into it. Number 10, The House That Built Me, Miranda Lambert, and Nashville, 2008.
I know they say you can't go home again.
Miranda Lambert had already proven she could throw a punch. Kerosene, gunpowder and lead. She was fire and fury, all edges and attitude, and her label loved every bit of it. So, when a quiet little song landed on her desk about going back to your childhood home and asking a stranger if you could just walk through the rooms one more time,
I just had to come back one last time.
The song had been written by Tom Douglas and Alan Shamblin, two of the most gifted songwriters in Nashville. But the question wasn't whether the song was beautiful. It clearly was. The question was whether Miranda Lambert, the woman who sang about burning down her ex's truck, could carry something this fragile without breaking.
Ma'am, I know you don't know me from Adam.
Her label hesitated, then she recorded it, and the room went silent in a way rooms rarely do. Not uncomfortable, not confused, just suspended, like nobody wanted to breathe and break something.
This brokenness inside me might start healing.
The song was released as a single in early 2010. Radio programmers weren't sure it had the commercial weight to compete. It debuted modestly. No immediate explosion. Just a slow, steady climb, the way real things grow. And then it hit number 1. It stayed there for 4 weeks. It won the CMA Award for Single of the Year. It won the ACM Award for Song of the Year. It became the defining moment of Miranda Lambert's career. Not because she was loud, but because she was willing to be still.
From Better Homes and Garden magazine.
A woman known for burning things down saved her legacy by coming home.
It's where I did my homework and I learned to play guitar.
Number 9, Live Like You Were Dying, Tim McGraw. The year was 2004.
You said I was in my early 40s with a lot of...
Tim McGraw was already one of the biggest names in country music, a consistent chart presence, a movie star, half of country's most famous marriage. He didn't need a risk. But then he heard this song. Written by Tim Nichols and Craig Wiseman, it told the story of a man diagnosed with a terminal illness. And instead of breaking down, he goes skydiving, he goes Rocky Mountain climbing, he rides a bull named Fu Manchu, he loves deeper, he speaks sweeter, and he gave forgiveness he'd been denying.
For me, when a moment came that stopped me on a dime.
McGraw's own father, baseball legend Tug McGraw, had been diagnosed with a brain tumor in 2003. He died in January 2004. The song found Tim McGraw at the exact moment when it was no longer just a song. When he sang it, you could hear that.
2.7 seconds on a bull named Fu Manchu.
Released in June 2004, it debuted at number 1 on the Billboard Hot Country Singles chart. The fastest climb of McGraw's career at that point. It crossed over. It spent 7 weeks at number 1. It won the Grammy for Best Country Song. It won CMA Single of the Year and Song of the Year simultaneously. It wasn't just a country hit. It was a cultural moment. People heard it at funerals, at cancer wards, at high school graduations. Strangers called radio stations weeping, asking them to play it again.
Baby, the real end, how's it hit you when you get that kind of news?
Some songs are about life. This one made people go out and live it.
And I went 2.7 seconds on a bull named Fu.
Number 8, When the Stars Go Blue, Tim McGraw featuring Nelly and Ryan Adams.
In a wedding gown.
This one is complicated, and that's exactly why it matters. Ryan Adams wrote and recorded When the Stars Go Blue in 2001, a ghostly, aching song about longing and loss and the kind of beauty that only shows up in darkness.
Marionette, are you happy now?
It was folk, it was alternative, it was not country, but something about it refused to stay in one lane. The Corrs covered it. Bono sang it live with Ryan Adams on tour, and then, in one of the stranger pairings Nashville had ever seen, Tim McGraw and hip-hop superstar Nelly recorded a version together for the 2004 Soul II Soul Tour. Country radio didn't know how to file it. Pop radio wasn't sure it was theirs. It existed somewhere in the middle, a beautiful, drifting thing with no clear home, and yet it found one. Listeners didn't care what format it belonged to. They just knew how it made them feel. Standing somewhere between a crowded room and a wide open sky, searching for something they couldn't name. It charted, it traveled, and it quietly proved something the industry was still learning. A real song doesn't need permission to matter.
Are you happy now?
Sometimes the most powerful things are the ones that don't belong anywhere specific, because those are the ones that belong to everyone. Number 7, Whiskey Lullaby. Brad Paisley featuring Alison Krauss. Brad Paisley was funny, that was his brand. Mud on the tires, celebrity, alcohol, a comedy song about loving to drink. Nashville loved his wit, his guitar playing, his easy grin. So in 2003, when he brought in a song about a man who drinks himself to death over a woman who leaves him, and then she drinks herself to death over the guilt of it.
Of a midnight cigarette, she broke.
The response was cautious. This was dark. This was not funny. This was two people destroying themselves in parallel, and the whole thing was set to a melody so beautiful it almost made the tragedy worse.
Till the night he put that bottle to.
Alison Krauss was brought in. Her voice angelic, ancient, like something from a place grief goes to rest, set against Paisley's warm, broken delivery, created something that had no business being as affecting as it was.
And his whole life trying to forget.
Radio played it anyway. Not because as they were sure, because they couldn't not. The music video, raw, cinematic, unflinching, showed the full arc of both characters' destruction. MTV played it. CMT played it on repeat. Viewers called in asking if the actors were okay. It reached number 3 on the country charts. It won the CMA Award for Musical Event of the Year in 2004. It became one of the most watched country music videos of the decade.
Like the burning end of a mid.
Brad Paisley, the funny guy from West Virginia, had made one of the most devastating ballads in modern country history. Nobody saw it coming, including him.
And finally drank away her memory.
Number 6, I Hope You Dance. Leanne Womack, the year 2000.
I hope you never lose your sense of wonder.
Leanne Womack was a critically respected, commercially moderate country artist. Good reviews, modest chart performance, the kind of career where Nashville says she's talented in a tone that sounds like a consolation prize. Then she recorded a song written by Mark D., Sanders, and Teosilas.
Forbid love ever leave you empty-handed.
The premise was simple, a mother's prayer for her child. Choose wonder over certainty, choose movement over stillness. When you get the chance to sit it out or dance, dance. Her label, MCA Nashville, wasn't sure it had the commercial edge to be a lead single. It was released anyway in the spring of 2000, and the world stopped.
Silence. And when you get the choice to sit.
It went to number 1. It stayed there for 5 weeks. It crossed over to pop radio, charting on the Billboard Hot 100. It won the Grammy for Best Country Song in 2001. It won the CMA Award for Single of the Year. It became a staple at graduations, weddings, father-daughter dances, and funerals, sometimes all 4 in the same week, in the same town.
Back on their using wonder.
Teosilas said she wrote it during one of the darkest periods of her life. She said she was writing it to herself as much as to anyone. That's the thing about the best ballads. They're never really written for an audience. They're written for survival. And somehow, that's exactly what makes them land for everyone.
To sit it out or dance.
Number 5. Holes in the Floor of Heaven. Steve Wariner.
One day shy of 8 years old.
Steve Wariner had been a fixture in country music since the late 1970s. Hits, awards, a guitarist, respected by everyone. Chet Atkins personally mentored him. But by the late 1990s, radio was moving on. The sound was changing. Younger, shinier acts were dominating the format. Then he co-wrote a song with Billy Kirsch. A song about losing his grandmother, about losing a daughter, about the idea that the people we've loved and lost watch us from somewhere just above, and the rain is their tears, and the light through clouds is them looking down. He recorded it. His label almost didn't release it. Too sentimental, some said. Too old-fashioned. Too quiet for the direction the format was heading. They released it anyway in 1998, and it began charting through 1999 into 2000. It climbed slowly, the way grief actually moves. Not in a straight line, but in slow, uneven waves. It reached number 1. It won the Grammy for Best Male Country Vocal Performance in 1999. Steve Wariner. The man Nashville had quietly started writing off. Walked to that podium with tears running down his face. He dedicated it to his father, who had died before the song was recorded.
I know she's watching, wishing she could be here.
Sometimes a song doesn't just save a career. Sometimes it saves the person who wrote it.
Tears are pouring down. That's how.
Number 4. Angels Among Us, Alabama recorded it in 1993.
And I knew in my heart he was the answer.
But here's the thing nobody talks about. That song never stopped charting in human experience. Throughout the 2000s, after September 11th, after Hurricane Katrina, after every moment when a nation needed to believe that something unseen was watching over it.
In our darkest hours, to show us how.
Radio programmers kept reaching back for it. Churches used it. Vigils played it. It appeared on tribute albums and memorial broadcasts across the entire decade. A song from 1993 became a 2000s ballad simply by refusing to stop being needed. That is not a small thing. That is legacy.
Old man took my hand and led me home.
And it raises a question for the 3 songs still left on this list. What does it take to write something that outlives the decade it was born in? The artists coming up knew the answer, even if they didn't know they knew it yet.
At the dark end of the road, that someone.
Number 3. Remember When. Alan Jackson, 2003.
Remember when.
Alan Jackson was country royalty, Gone Country, Chattahoochee, Where Were You When the World Stopped Turning. He had already written one of the most important songs in post-9/11 American history. He had nothing left to prove, and then he wrote a love song to his wife. A quiet, chronological love song.
Fell apart and broke each other's heart.
A couple meets young. They fall in love. They struggle. They raise children. The children leave. They grow old. And they sit together at the end of it. Gray-haired, worn, still in it, and remember when.
Time stood still.
No dramatic twist, no clever hook, no stadium moment, just time, and the terrifying beauty of watching it pass. When it was released as a single, some programmers called it too slow, too simple, not enough going on. It reached number 1. It became the wedding song, the anniversary song, the 50th birthday song, the eulogy song.
Vowed the vows and walked the walk.
Alan Jackson performed it at events for decades after. It consistently ranks among the greatest country love songs ever recorded. Here's what those radio programmers missed, what they didn't understand in 2003, and what the song quietly proved anyway. Simplicity is not the absence of craft. Simplicity is craft at its absolute highest, not loud, not flashy, just unforgettable.
The sound of little feet wasn't music.
Number 2, The Dance. Garth Brooks' Yes, it was released in 1990.
But how could I have known that you...
But here is why it belongs in this countdown. Every artist on this list, every songwriter who sat down to write a ballad in the 2000s, had heard The Dance. It was the benchmark. It was the impossible standard. It was the song that proved country music could carry philosophical weight.
And for a moment, no.
That a 3-minute song about a failed love could also be of a meditation on grief, fate, and the terrifying question of whether it's better to feel nothing than to feel too much. Throughout the 2000s, it was played at memorials for soldiers. It was played at Garth Brooks tribute concerts that sold out stadiums. It was covered, sampled, referenced, and chased by a generation of artists who knew they were reaching for something they might not catch.
Wasn't I king? But if
Tony Arata wrote it alone in a house in Savannah, Georgia. He said he wasn't thinking about Garth Brooks. He wasn't thinking about country music. He was thinking about his own life. The moments that break you open, and whether you'd choose to go back and avoid them. Garth Brooks heard it and went quiet. That silence was the answer. Some songs don't need a story of struggle and rejection and unlikely triumph. Some songs arrive already knowing what they are. Number 1, He Didn't Have to Be, Brad Paisley, 1999.
I met the man I call my dad when I was 5.
Releasing into the decade that would define it. Brad Paisley was brand new, unproven. A kid from Glendale, West Virginia, who'd gotten a record deal and was standing at the edge of a career that hadn't happened yet. He released this song, a quiet first-person account of a stepfather who chose to love a child that wasn't biologically his.
Looking back, all I can say about
Written from the perspective of that child, now grown, now a father himself, looking at his own son and understanding for the first time what that choice actually cost and meant. It was not a power ballad. It was not a tearjerker built for maximum emotional manipulation. It was something quieter and stranger, a love song to a man who simply showed up. Radio liked it, moderately. And then the mail started coming in. Bags of it, physical letters, emails, faxes. This was 1999. People still faxed. Stepfathers writing in. Stepchildren writing in. Men who had never told their stepchildren they loved them writing in, to say they were going to call them today, right now, after they finished this letter.
at least half the dad that he didn't have to.
It reached number 1. It was Brad Paisley's first number 1 single. It launched one of the most durable careers in modern country music. It won the ACM Award for Single of the Year, but none of that is why it's number 1 on this list. It's number 1 because of what it did to the people who heard it. Because a 26-year-old kid from West Virginia wrote something so quietly true that strangers picked up phones and said things to people they loved that they'd been waiting years to say. That is not a chart position. That is not an award. That is what music is for.
Years ago, we had the perfect marriage, but